Welcome to this explainer on the art of reading technical specifications. Let's jump right in with a story. Imagine it's 9 in the morning. You're sitting around a table with your project manager, the technical architect, the sales director, and a couple of senior pre-sales engineers. The agenda has exactly one item on it. You need to prepare a bid for a massive 180-page technical specification.
The deadline for this bid is exactly 10 days out. Faced with 180 pages, the team makes a super common decision. They divide the document up into silos. One person takes the network requirements. Someone else takes storage. Compute goes to another engineer. Security clauses, software requirements, and service conditions are all handed out. The directive is simple. Read your section, fill in your compliance row, and write your technical response. 10 days later, the bid goes out the door.
2 weeks after that, the results drop. The competitor scores a 97 out of 97 on the technical evaluation. Your team scores an 84. When we finally got our hands on the evaluation report, we looked for exactly where those points vanished. We found a crushing 13-point loss clustered right around section 4.7.2. This specific section demanded active-active storage clustering, synchronous replication, and sub-millisecond latency. Crucially, it stated, this must be provided without additional licensing fees.
Our technical response said exactly this: available with additional licensing option. That single response cost the entire bid. 13 points were gone in a flash. And nobody caught it during preparation because we had split the document up and no one owned the full picture. We had read the spec, sure, but reading a spec is not the same thing as understanding it.
Let's look at the anatomy of a specification, because an RFP is rarely what it appears to be on the surface.
To stop losing bids like this, we absolutely have to change how we view these documents. A specification gives off this illusion of being a perfectly neutral technical document. It lists capacity numbers, protocol names, and performance thresholds. But don't let that fool you. An RFP is actually a preference list. It reflects the systems a customer used in the past, it reflects the meetings they've had and the relationships they've built. Most specifications carry a clear direction that's already been chosen. As a pre-sales professional, your job is to read the signals about why it was written that way in the first place.
There are 5 distinct layers you need to analyze. First, look for scope signals in the general definitions. Phrases like integration with existing environment are massive clues. Second, separate the mandatory from the preferred requirements. Third, verify your compliance conditions, like local security standards. Fourth, hunt for local presence clauses. Missing a requirement for a direct manufacturer office after you just spent 2 weeks working on a bid is incredibly painful. Finally, check the scoring weights. Your effort allocation must be driven entirely by how those points are distributed.
Next up, spotting the red flags. We need to identify those hidden requirements that act as exclusionary filters. This is probably the most critical skill in reading an RFP. You must learn how to spot red flags. These are hidden requirements that look completely neutral on the surface, but actually act as strict exclusionary filters. Keep your eyes peeled for 5 specific traps. Watch for brand name specs that only 1 or 2 vendors actually support. Look out for combination traps, suspiciously specific numbers, local presence requirements, and strict reference conditions that limit the pool to a tiny fraction of qualifying vendors. Let's break a couple of these down.
The combination trap is honestly fascinating. Imagine a spec asking for sub-2 millisecond write latency, NVMe over fabrics, and active-active clustering without additional licensing. Individually, every single one of those specs is totally fair and achievable, but combine them all together, suddenly you've created an exclusionary filter that describes exactly one product on the entire market.
Then you have suspiciously specific numbers. If you see a requirement demanding a minimum of 32 NVMe SSDs per controller, you have to ask where that number comes from. Is it a recognized industry standard, or is it a specific competitor's default configuration? You must investigate these suspicious numbers before you conclude the process is rigged. Sometimes it's just a copied requirement. Ask the hard questions and learn the truth.
That brings us to the bid decision, figuring out if you should even respond at all.
Once you spot the red flags, you arrive at the most under-asked question in enterprise sales. Before your team commits 2 straight weeks to a bid response, you must evaluate the reality of the situation. You need a strict sequential process to answer honest questions about who wrote the spec, your actual win rate on mandatory requirements, and whether there's any strategic value in bidding, even if you know you're going to lose. Having the professional maturity to recommend a no-bid decision with clear rationale protects your organization's time and resources.
Let's move on to winning before the spec even exists. This is all about upstream engagement.
If you want to stop fighting rig specs, you have to change your timeline entirely and move to a proactive posture. The strongest position you can possibly be in is being present long before the specification even exists. By the time an RFP is released, the customer has already run technical workshops and evaluated architectures for months. You need to be in those early workshops serving as the trusted advisor. When your reference architecture becomes the baseline for their actual technical requirements, you've achieved ethical spec influence.
I'll wrap up this explainer with a pretty striking realization. Whoever wrote the RFP already knows who is going to win. Understanding a specification is an art. It's an art usually acquired the hard way, through lost bids and missed clauses. So investigate those red flags, master your bid decisions, and engage Upstream. The next time a massive document lands on your desk, ask yourself this: are you going to be the one reacting to the trap, or are you going to be the one who wrote it?